Some mysteries are not meant to be solved, but to be felt. There are moments when we sit in the quiet of our own company and wonder about the ripples we've created in this world. Not the loud, obvious ones, those we remember well enough, but the silent ones. The gentle touches that changed someone's day without fanfare, without recognition, without even our own awareness. You've lived through decades of conversations, encounters, and small exchanges that seemed insignificant at the time. A kind word at the grocery store. A patient listening ear when someone needed to talk. The way you simply showed up when showing up mattered most. These weren't grand gestures or life-changing speeches. They were the quiet gifts of your presence, offered freely and forgotten by tomorrow. But here's what you might not know. Somewhere in this world, someone carries the memory of your silence. Not your words, but your silence. The way you chose not to judge when judgment would have been easy. The way you held space for another person's pain without trying to fix it. The way you sat beside someone in their darkness and didn't insist on turning on the lights. This is the mystery that lives within you, the profound impact of your quieter self, the self that doesn't need to announce its goodness to the world. It's the self that understands that sometimes the most powerful thing we can offer another human being is our calm, our steadiness, our willingness to simply be present without agenda. Think of it this way, in a world that never stops talking, your silence became someone's sanctuary. In a culture obsessed with quick fixes and immediate answers, your patience became someone's lifeline. While others rushed to fill every pause with advice or platitudes, you had the wisdom to let silence do its healing work. There's something profound about the way memory works as we grow older. Not the sharp, detailed memories of yesterday's grocery list or last week's appointment, those can fade and blur. But the deep memories, the ones that shaped us, they often center around feelings rather than facts. The memory of safety. The memory of being truly seen. The memory of unconditional acceptance. You were someone's safe harbor, though they may never have told you so directly. You were the person who didn't need them to be different, better, or more than they were in that moment. Your silence wasn't empty or absent, it was full. Full of understanding, full of acceptance, full of the kind of love that doesn't need to be declared to be real. Consider the grandmother who sits quietly while her adult children argue about her care. She doesn't interrupt, doesn't defend herself, doesn't try to control the conversation. But her calm presence in that room changes everything. Her silence speaks of dignity, of trust in life's process, of a kind of wisdom that can only be earned through years of learning when to speak and when to simply be. Or think of the friend who visits during illness, not the one who comes with flowers and chatter, but the one who sits bedside reading the newspaper aloud, comfortable with the pauses, unafraid of the quiet moments when words feel inadequate. That friend's silence becomes a bridge between isolation and connection, between fear and peace. Your silence has been a gift in ways you probably never imagined. When adult children brought their troubles to you, they weren't always looking for solutions. Sometimes they just needed to be heard without being fixed. Your quiet listening, your thoughtful pauses before responding, your way of sitting with difficult truths without rushing to make them better, these became cornerstones in other people's lives. The mystery isn't whether you made a difference. The mystery is how profound that difference was, how it rippled outward in ways you couldn't track, how your quiet strength became scaffolding for someone else's healing. In boardrooms and family gatherings, in hospital waiting rooms and kitchen table conversations, your presence carried weight precisely because it didn't demand attention. We live in times that celebrate the loud, the fast, the immediate. But you represent something different, something increasingly rare and precious. You represent the power of bearing witness, of showing up consistently, of loving people through your steady, undemanding presence rather than through grand gestures or passionate speeches. Your children learn from your silence how to think before speaking, how to consider words carefully, how to value substance over show. Friends discovered in your quiet company that they didn't need to perform or entertain to be worthy of love. Strangers encountered in your patience a reminder that the world still holds people who aren't in a hurry to judge or dismiss. This is what happens when we live long enough and quietly enough. We become sanctuaries. Not because we try to be, but because we've learned the rare art of making space for others without needing that space to reflect back on ourselves. We've developed the capacity to love without needing to be the center of the love story. But here's where the mystery deepens, becomes more complex and beautiful. As relationships evolve and deepen over the years, as we navigate the intricate dance of aging parents and growing children, our silence takes on new dimensions. It becomes not just about being present for others, but about allowing others to be present for us. There's a different kind of courage required here, the courage to let our children see us as human, flawed, needing care. The courage to let our silence hold vulnerability instead of just strength. To let the spaces between words carry our fears about health, about memory, about becoming a burden, about being forgotten. Your silence with your adult children might carry apologies you don't know how to voice, regrets about moments when you were too tired, too overwhelmed, too human to be the parent you wanted to be. But it also carries a deep, abiding love that has grown more patient and less conditional with time. Your quiet presence in their lives now speaks of forgiveness, both the forgiveness you offer them for their imperfections and the forgiveness you hope they extend to yours. When you sit quietly at family gatherings, you're not absent or disengaged. You're witnessing. You're holding space for the beautiful, messy reality of the family you helped create. Your silence allows your children to be adults, to make their own mistakes, to find their own ways of showing love. It's a gift of trust and respect that speaks louder than words ever could. And in your relationships with peers, your silence has become a different kind of intimacy. You and your longtime friends can sit together without feeling the need to fill every moment with conversation. You can share comfortable quiet that acknowledges all the years between you, all the losses and gains, all the ways you've both changed and remained essentially yourselves. This is the silence of deep understanding, of shared history, of knowing that some experiences are too profound for words. It's the silence of two people who have lived long enough to understand that not everything needs to be explained or analyzed, sometimes it just needs to be lived. Your silence in the face of physical changes, of health challenges, of the small daily losses that come with aging, this silence isn't resignation. It's a form of grace. It's the wisdom of accepting what cannot be changed while continuing to find meaning in what remains. It's teaching by example that dignity doesn't depend on physical capacity, that worth isn't measured by productivity, that love doesn't diminish when the container changes. Think of the profound conversations that have happened in your presence without words being spoken. The moment when your adult child realized you were getting older and would someday be gone. The recognition that passed between you, an acknowledgement of mortality that didn't need to be verbalized to be deeply felt. Your silence in that moment allowed them to process their grief while still having you fully present and alive. Or consider the times when friends have sat with you through difficult news, a diagnosis, a loss, a fear about the future. The gift wasn't in anything that was said, but in the willingness to sit in the difficulty together. Your silence communicated what words couldn't, that some sorrows are too big for solutions but not too big for love. And now we come to perhaps the most beautiful part of this mystery, the way your silence has become a form of legacy. A teaching that continues even in your absence from any particular moment or conversation. People who have been touched by your quiet presence carry that gift forward in ways they might not even recognize. Your grandchildren learn from your example that love doesn't always need to be loud to be real. They see in your patient attention, in your willingness to listen to their stories without judgment or hurry, what it means to truly value another person. Your silence with them isn't about having nothing to say, it's about making room for them to discover their own voices. When they face their own difficult moments later in life, they'll remember the feeling of being with you, the sense of safety, of acceptance, of being worthy of quiet, careful attention. They'll carry forward the understanding that some problems don't need to be solved, some feelings don't need to be fixed, and some people just need to be witnessed in their full humanity. This is how wisdom travels across generations, not always through words and lectures, but through the felt experience of being truly seen and accepted. Your silence creates ripples that will touch lives you'll never meet, in ways you'll never know. The colleagues who worked alongside you learned from your example how to hold space for difficult conversations, how to listen without immediately jumping to conclusions, how to respond to conflict with thoughtful consideration rather than knee-jerk reactions. They carry forward the memory of your steady presence during workplace dramas, your way of staying focused on what mattered most even when emotions ran high. Friends who shared your table, your garden, your quiet companionship learned what it means to be truly present with another person. They discovered in your company that relationships don't always require maintenance or performance, that sometimes the deepest connections happen in comfortable silence, in shared tasks done without conversation, in the simple pleasure of existing alongside someone you trust and respect. Even strangers, the cashier you smiled at but didn't chat with, the neighbor you waved to but rarely spoke with, the fellow patient in waiting rooms you sat beside quietly, they too were touched by your particular way of being in the world. Your silence communicated respect for their privacy while still acknowledging their humanity. It said, "I see you, I wish you well, and I don't need anything from you." This is the profound mystery of your impact. How much of it happened in the spaces between words, in the quality of your attention, in your willingness to let others be exactly who they were in your presence. You became a place of refuge not by trying to fix people's problems, but by accepting them as complete human beings worthy of gentle, patient regard. Your silence holds decades of small kindnesses, of moments when you chose compassion over criticism, understanding over judgment, patience over frustration. It holds the accumulation of all the times you bit back harsh words, all the times you waited for someone to find their own way, all the times you offered presence instead of advice. And perhaps most mysteriously of all, your silence holds love, not the demanding kind that insists on being acknowledged or returned, but the quiet kind that simply radiates outward like warmth from a well-tended fire. It's love that doesn't need to justify itself or prove its worth. It simply exists, steady and available, a constant in an inconstant world. As evening settles and the world grows quieter, as you sit in your own comfortable silence, know this: the mystery you carry isn't really a mystery at all. It's the most simple and complex truth in the world, that love expressed through presence, through patience, through the willingness to witness another person's journey without trying to control it, is perhaps the most powerful force we can offer each other. Your silence has been a sanctuary, a bridge, a gift, a teaching, and a legacy. It has created space for healing, for growth, for connection, for peace. In a world that often feels chaotic and demanding, you have been a steady note, a place of calm, a reminder that not everything needs to be urgent to be important. The lives you've touched through your quiet presence carry forward the memory of what it feels like to be truly accepted. They know, in their bones, what it means to be loved without conditions, to be seen without judgment, to be valued simply for existing. This knowledge becomes part of how they move through the world, part of how they treat others, part of the legacy they too will leave behind. Your silence speaks volumes about the kind of person you've chosen to be, someone who understands that the most profound communications often happen without words, that the deepest healings occur in safe spaces, that the most lasting impacts come from consistent, gentle presence rather than dramatic gestures. In your quiet moments of reflection, in your comfortable solitude, in your thoughtful pauses before speaking, you continue to embody this mystery. You remain a living reminder that in a world hungry for authentic connection, sometimes the most generous thing we can offer is our calm, unhurried attention to the beauty and complexity of each person we encounter. The mystery you were, the mystery you are, the mystery you'll always be. It's the mystery of love that doesn't need to announce itself to be real, of wisdom that doesn't need to be loud to be heard, of presence that doesn't need to be perfect to be profoundly meaningful. This is your gift to the world, the understanding that sometimes the most powerful thing we can be is a safe, quiet place for others to rest, to be seen, to be accepted exactly as they are. Your silence has been, and continues to be, a form of love that changes lives in ways both seen and unseen, known and unknown, spoken and forever held in the grateful silence of hearts you've touched. If these words have stirred something in your own quiet heart, if you recognize yourself in this mystery of gentle impact, share your thoughts below. Sometimes the most profound conversations begin with the simple acknowledgement, I was here, I witnessed, I loved quietly, and perhaps that was enough.